Are you like me? Have you been watching Planet Coaster series on YouTube for the last 4 years? Have you been able to play it? Because I have not. I just got a new computer and here we go because I can finally play this game. Normally you would start off building a park with the main entrance, but I like to break the rules, so let's build a roller coaster. Decided to go with an inverted coaster here because I haven't built one of these recently. My idea with this coaster was to keep it close to the edge of the park. You'll see here eventually that I'm going to put a parking lot along the border and to the right of this coaster. Now, I like to keep my coasters very smooth and have good flow through the entire thing. So, building this style of coaster, this inverted or floorless, anything that would be a B&M style, that's super important to me. Now, to have good flow, you have to have a good pace. So that's why you'll see me spend a little extra time there getting that size of that loop right. Now, after that MMM loop, we're going to come back down to the ground, go up into a 0G turn. I like the way that it went right over the lift hill, so I decided to keep that. Now when I go into building a coaster, I tend to have an idea of what I want it to do, but not necessarily a specific layout. So I kind of go with the flow and give the coaster good flow because that's important. As you can see, we go into a mid-course brake run, which is important because if this ride is as busy as you'd think it'd be, you'd want to be able to run 3 trains, and without a mid-course brake run, that's not possible. Now I needed to turn it around again, so I don't have a problem using the pre-made elements because it always turns out better than I could ever do it, so I'm going to use what's given to me. As you can see, I go into our next element, which is going to be an inverted loop. And you'll see me do this often. I always double check to make sure that my train has the speed to make it through the elements that I put, because I don't like going back and redesigning my entire coaster after I've made it a complete loop. A lot of times that is fine-tuning the brake runs and the release speeds to make sure it releases with enough speed, like this one, to make it over that corbel roll, over the loop, over the corkscrew, and then eventually back to our station. Now, I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to do this station and brake run, but I think it ended up working fairly well. I liked that it comes off at a 90-degree from the station, but the difficult part was connecting it up and making it the way that a B&M inverted coaster would run. I really like the ending to Raptor at Cedar Point with the helixes down low to the ground and fast moving, so that's kind of the inspiration for this. Now, I knew I wanted to do helixes back to the brake run. Wasn't sure how to do that. The in-game helixes are rather tall, which makes sense for an inverted coaster because you don't want to smack their feet on anything. So I was trying to figure out how to use one of those, or if I could, with the room and the space that I had. Now here you see me checking the speed of the train to make sure that it has a good flow and a good pace through the entire thing before we give it a ride. So here we go. Now, the one thing on this that I really didn't like was the brake run into that final helix before the brakes. So I needed to find a way to shed some speed, go through the helix, and not come blasting into the brake run, just in case those brakes fail. So we had to figure out something else. One thing that never gets old in this game is the sunsets and the sunrise. I mean, look at that sky in the background. Freaking beautiful. Alright, so we've given it a couple test rides, figured out some janky spots. We'll go through here and smooth it out. Figure out that final helix run into the brake run, and keep going. Now here you'll see me looking at the excitement rating. I didn't like that the excitement on this after the test run was less than a 6, so usually you need to level out a drop so the train has more speed going through and can carry it through better and onto the next piece. Or sometimes you have to make a drop after the crest of a curve a little steeper so that when it goes down, the gravity pushes it downhill and you maintain speed going over the next or into the next element. So that's what I'm doing here, going through all the little turns. Another rendition of this turnaround into the brake run. I think this is the last attempt. I know we're getting close. Alright, so I think that was the last time I changed the ending to the ride. I was looking at the station trying to figure out how I was going to get a queue in there and realized I thought it would be best to have them enter on one side and exit at the other side. This way I could have the queue to the ride out front where people could see it, have the exit come around the back, possibly through a building / gift shop, and see where it goes. Now, as we work on this queue line, I will tell you that this is going to change a lot over the next couple episodes. I like the cattle pen look back and forth there, and there was plenty of room. But once I start putting the sidewalk in, I have to change it up a little bit to make some. Alright, so here we are finally starting on the entrance to our park. I cut out a little bit making the front of the entrance because I wanted to move the entry gates, and I never really messed with that before. I had the wrong ones. I had ride entrances in there instead of ticket booths instead of park entrances, so I had to redo that a couple times. I like the Main Street look of parks, so that's kind of what I went for. Now, I hate building buildings in this game. It's a lot of tedious details that I'm not a big fan of. So I like to take pre-made buildings and then adapt them to this situation that I need them for. Now in this case, I had downloaded this building and the next one that I put in, or this blueprint, off the Steam Workshop about a month ago when I got my game and a new computer. So I can't remember who made it, but this is the first time I was able to use it. I'm really happy with it. I did not realize that there was buildings or shops and restaurants inside those buildings, which made my life a heck of a lot easier. And it looked way better than anything I could personally build. Now here I start working on the main entrance building, and as you can see, I just took a building out of that set and I will adapt it to as I need it. So I like to take a building, put it over in a flat area away from everything else so that I can look at it and see it from all angles with This was a fun project, trying to figure out how they made this roof and then copying it. I didn't want to do that, so I'll just make it flat here. It looks good enough. In hindsight, I would have made these sections that I'm duplicating into a separate building on itself. Would have made it a lot easier, because there is 4 of them in that one piece there. So yeah, there we go. Just level it out, make it look good, and then we're gonna, I believe we fill in the gaps there in the front so it's one cohesive. If not, I'm gonna have to go back and change that. Now placing it over the entrances was a task all on its own. The reason being is, as you can see here, is the pathing. If you play this game once or twice, you know how fun the pathing can be. Now, I'm not going to complain too much because it's 1,000 times better than the Roller Coaster Tycoon games, but it's still a pain in the butt. Now, I wanted them to be able to walk through the building on the front side, come through the gates, and pop out into the park. So figuring out how to make this possible, but not too deep because I didn't want it to take up a lot of room, but yet still make it look okay. And this is, I think, what I came up with. I'm sure I'll go back at some point and fix something or fill in some pieces, but I like the way it turned out for now. Yeah, I tried copying the whole front of the building to the backside and nothing lined up the way I wanted it to, so I scratched that idea. Now, I wanted the gates to be included in the building, so I figured I'd build some sort of like porch or veranda, which I liked for a while, and I think eventually I'll change that. So here I go again, trying to copy the front of the building to the backside so I could not have to do all the work. But I don't think it worked very well. Selecting the exact pieces and all the pieces you want once sucks. And then I realized that when I copied, that I don't have a back to the top of the building. So that scratched this whole idea. Now, I should have just left it right there with the row of windows on the top and the black the pillars going down. That looked good, but it didn't line up with the bottom row, so I had to scratch the idea. Again, trying to copy it over. Because of the grid, it would never fit where I needed it to, so I had to scratch that. Which is why you'll see the back of this building on the top there open for quite some time. Now here I am putting in some of my own windows just so it doesn't look so basic and boring. And then moving on to the path coverings. I like that the buildings that I used came with their own, but then when I saw that it was little tiny pieces, I had to use something different. So let's make it look like an actual park. Now you'll see I go through, do the main pieces that I can do on the grid, and I left the detail diagonal weird angled pieces for later. I'll come back to that. So now I didn't realize when I downloaded this building that you could walk through this one, so when I put it in, it happened to be perfect and ended up right in the spot for the entrance to our invert. So I continued the path over there, get everything hooked up. After I got everything hooked up on this side over by the coaster, we went ahead and started letting the guests in. I like to see how the park flows with people walking through it. Then I realized that this entire side of the plaza that I built is floating, so I have to go through, fix all the paths, drop everything down a foot, make it look good. Go ahead and throw in some trees here to liven it up a little bit. And I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining me for this first episode. Please bear in mind that this is the first time I've done anything like this, so doing the voiceover, getting all the audio correct. I hate to do this to you, but part 2 of this first episode is going to come out after this. I didn't realize that when I sat down and recorded all this, that when I sped it up to put it into a 20-minute episode, that I was going to have to speed it up like 1,000 times. We're going to go through here, do some little terrain editing so we don't have any clipping, add some hills to give it a little flyby action, and I think that's going to do it for this episode. So once again, thank you guys for joining me on this episode of my first Parks build series. Now the next episode we're going to go through, add a station building for the roller coaster, do some plants and scenery, make it a little more lively, and make it look pretty. If you guys found this episode at all enjoyable, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. And with that, guys, I'll see you in episode 1B, which is out now. See you next time, and thanks for watching.